Welcome back. The Life Out Loud travel team is back on the road, but this time we've loaded up the car and headed out for an adventure in America's West. If you're new to our channel, welcome to our family travel adventures. Please subscribe as our trip will be broken down into variety videos, and let me promise you, the best is yet to come. To all the rest of you, welcome back. Unlike our other videos, this trip will keep our feet on the ground. We trade high-end suites for cozy hotel rooms and choose to skip fine dining for hotel-prepared meals. Come along for the adventure of a lifetime as we travel from Mountain, Maryland to Yellowstone National Park with our two daughters.
It would take us a day and a half to make it to Billings, Montana, where we would start our adventure. This video will cover the first 28 hours of driving it took us to get there. Although our stops were limited, we hit some good ones. Let's go and head out on the adventure with us.
2024 summer road trip. We're on the road again, headed out west to the great outdoors. Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, South Dakota, that area. We actually left yesterday afternoon, so it's actually day 2 now of our trip. We left about 24 hours ago. We left about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and drove to Rockford, Illinois, which is just northwest of Chicago, about 80 miles. Got there about 11 o'clock last night. Got up and got an early start this morning. We're about 1,100 miles into the trip so far. And we just filled up again for our afternoon trek across North Dakota. We're about, I think, 50 or 60 miles from the North Dakota line. We're currently in Minnesota. Just enjoying the view. Still driving through cornfield after cornfield. I think at some point it'll probably switch to like wheat or some other crop, but still mostly cornfields. A few swans on the ponds, but we're about 40 miles outside of North Dakota, I think. Friday was our longest driving day. Our next hotel was almost 1,200 miles away in Billings, Montana. From our hotel just outside Chicago, it was a 16-hour drive. Our family is used to long drive days, as we commonly drive to cruise ports, but back-to-back long driving days are tiresome. To drive from our house to Yellowstone National Park would be almost 30 hours of non-stop driving. We did over 10 hours on Thursday and 16 hours on Friday. We didn't want to split the time up over 3 days, as Carrie was able to get a last-minute reservation to stay at the Old Faithful Inn on Saturday night, and it was on our bucket list to stay there. We left Chicago around 7 a.m. and we were in our hotel in Billings, Montana before 11 p.m. Needless to say, we made good time. We did gain an extra hour when we passed into the Mountain Time Zone, and this allowed us to spend some time in North Dakota at the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Theodore Roosevelt National Park is divided into north and south units. Interstate 94 drives directly through the southern portion. We stopped at the Painted Canyon area, which is one of the 2 points of interest in the South Unit. Painted Canyon offers travelers a glimpse into the colorful Badlands of the park. The Badlands earned their name by being notoriously difficult to travel across. With today's interstate highways, travel is not so tough. That is until you leave the beaten path. Fortunately for us, we stayed on the overlooks and enjoyed the beauty of the hills. Alright, it's just about 6 o'clock in the evening. Driving along Interstate 94 through the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And this is the Painted Canyon Scenic Overlook. On our journey out west, Theodore Roosevelt was not a priority. It was more of an option. I had hoped we'd be able to visit, but was flexible, as we didn't know what our schedule and available time would be. Thankfully, we made good time and were able to stop. This land became part of the National Park System in 1947, 64 years after a young Teddy Roosevelt visited. Prior to becoming president in 1901, Roosevelt briefly lived on the area now contained in the park. His once temporary home here
known as the Maltese Cross Cabin, can still be toured while visiting the park. During his presidency, Roosevelt was a champion of conservation as he had seen firsthand the misuse of land out west. Under his presidency, nearly 230 million acres were protected in the form of national forests, parks, monuments, and reserves. Theodore Roosevelt National Park was created to honor the legacy he left behind.
The horses just returned from their trail ride. It's pretty cool.
After our brief visit to the park, we continued our journey west towards Billings. We had about 4 more hours of driving prior to reaching our next hotel. The drive was quick and easy. There was minimal traffic, the speed limit was 80 miles per hour, and the roads were quite straight. We were surrounded by beautiful scenery and treated to a spectacular sunset near Terry, Montana, where the entire sky was a vibrant orange. We thought we understood what it meant to be in big sky country, but we're certain we got to experience the beauty of Montana after the sun went down and millions of little stars twinkled above us. We made it to our second hotel in Billings, Montana before 11 p.m. It was a long, tiring day of driving, but we were all excited for our journey to officially start the following day. We were impressed by the beautiful landscapes and vistas we saw in North Dakota and Montana, but had no real idea of what was in store for us in the coming days.